Today is a little different. Most of you know my wife Angie, but what you don't know is over the last year she's had an incredible transformation. And what you haven't heard is how bad things actually became. There was a time she was living with constant anxiety, panic attacks, brain fog, and nights where sleep simply wouldn't come. She thought she was falling apart. What she eventually learned was that she wasn't broken, she was entering perimenopause. Now today she's joining me for the very first time to tell her story, and Jonathan Otto is here to explain why some of the very first tools that she used became such an important part of her recovery. Jonathan, Angie, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Angie, it's a delight to have you here back on the Next News Network. And, you know, I've lived through this entire experience with you, but our audience has never really heard the full story. So take us back. What was happening to you physically and emotionally?
Thank you, Gary. I am super happy to be back. To answer your question, I didn't know what was happening to me. I just woke up one morning, and the best way I can describe it is realizing you no longer have those breaks that help you throughout your day where you can calm down and adjust and stop and reassess. I related to driving a car without brakes, and it was terrifying and it was emotional. And it was very difficult to go through.
Well, what I saw personally was debilitating, crippling, rather scary. And, you know, this is before you ever started hormone replacement, before any formal diagnosis. So, like, what were some of the worst days actually like? Let people understand what survival mode actually looked like for you.
Um, it's a wild. For you to tell me what you remember and what I remember is such a big blur. Survival mode is you know you're attempting to get through each minute, each hour. It was navigating, being a mom, trying to get kids up into school, and that's difficult in itself. But you just it's like going to war. Like I woke up every morning knowing I was going to war, and there was no waking up and thinking today was going to be different because every day was the same. It was tough.
Well, what I remember is the constant search for solutions.
Yes.
Um, Listening to podcasts, health and wellness experts, reaching out to individuals for support, and it was a constant chase to try to figure out what was actually happening. And then I remember quite specifically because Jonathan has been on this channel countless times sharing all of these different experiences that he's had, and he's gifted us the tools, and then you started using them. So yes, you had certain supplements and different things you were taking, but it was red light therapy and the PEMF map that really provided another level of support. So what was it about that, and how did you reach for that? What were some of the experiences you had directly with it?
Oh, it's such a good question. You mentioned me chasing answers, and regrettably, I did that. I wish that in that moment I said, pause, focus, and listen. And in that moment, I think Jonathan came into our lives. And I think God just created this perfect moment where he reintroduced something into me where I was like, okay, I need to remember my faith. I need to look to God for my answers here. And the minute I stopped chasing and I slowed down and Jonathan gifted us with that amazing red light, I'm like, oh, this makes sense. This is something that, I would absolutely try. This is absolutely something that makes sense for me. Um, but months, almost a year before I even went on bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, I started using the red light. And I'm gonna get emotional. I It was relief. It was relief each time I used it.
Well, I remember one specific moment, not even related to the perimenopause, but when we went to NATO and we were covering the NATO summit, and the day before we left, you had a horrible abdominal pain. You
Oh
were
yeah.
you were about to go into the hospital, and we were
Yep.
trying to figure out and navigate like a European emergency room hospital situation with our flight departing the next day, and you stuck it out. But when we got back, you went to the doctor and they gave you all kinds of medications, and the medications were causing even more problems. They
Wow.
diagnosed you with diverticulitis, and I think because there's really two tracks here that I think people need to be made aware of and how red light helped you, and you could maybe go into your personal experience with that. I don't want to get too divergent here, but I think one of the most striking moments for me was when you went into the emergency room. You got the pills, and they tell you to keep taking them, and then
Yeah.
once you said these pills are causing side effects, and then you went under the red light, and it was almost like night and day, like
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone's experienced diverticulitis before, but it's quite intense and painful. Um, but again, I had such an incredible relief using the red light versus the medication, and you get that's tricky. Diverticulitis is really dangerous. It can be really dangerous depending on what level of you're experiencing. But for me, it was red light all the way. It was healing. It was immediate for me, and it just made my whole healing process better.
So
Yeah.
you said something that really stuck with me, that every time you used the red light, you laid on the PEMF mat, you felt healing. Can you describe that
Yes.
feeling?
So I love this question so much, and I really want to convey to people more than anything how important it is to really love yourself and care for yourself. And when you can imagine the good that the red light is actually doing to you from head to toe, it is like it's blissful. So each time I went under that red light, I know this is a sound corny or whatever, but I just imagined being embraced and loved. It was just like just healing, healing.
Well, there's no
The mind
question. When I go
space.
under it, when I go under the red light, I feel the warmth from the mat and the red light, and you really just kind of want to hang out there all day because it does feel so amazing. And Jonathan, I want to shift to you
Mm.
because you've just heard her story, and from your perspective, and and you've done the research, you have the tools, and people can check out the tools at the link in the description. Why would red light therapy and PMF become some of the first things to give someone relief during a diverticulitis flare up or even perimenopause?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And perhaps to even extend to your question would be to arguably any condition, which sounds like a stretch for anyone that hears that for the first time. You can't say that one thing would work for all things, but if you said it with oxygen, then you would say, yeah, oxygen works for all things. And so it shouldn't be a shock that light works for all things. You may need additional therapies, but in Angie's case, it's a great example that she had a miraculous response because it was something her body had been craving for so long. And she could feel that. And then she experienced the change in her biology and her markers. And it's she did something that a lot of people don't do, which is that they actually do it. Yeah, a lot of people hear about it, but they never do it. And reasons for that are to do with it really is a lack of self-love at the end of it, but people often don't believe that it's possible. And so that's why you notice this spiritual aspect where there's some kind of belief that God is going to take care of me. There is a way. Because even imagine it was only, like, let's say 20 minutes twice a week that you had to do the red light. People won't even do that because they don't believe that they could ever achieve it, and they just end up accepting what they have. Yes, but PEMF and red light therapy, the reason why they work for a condition like diverticulitis, perimenopause, is because you're fueling the cells with what they need to regenerate, and you're dropping the toxicity that is causing the issue. So toxins are really the culprit. They're the villain. They're the arch villain in the story, and you don't know, and you deal with symptoms, and then doctors don't ever alert you to what it is that is driving that thing, and they say, well, we just don't know. But I know, And anyone that knows anything knows. And it is simply an array of toxins. It's a wonder why any of us can live and thrive in the onslaught that we're in right now. And so when we reduce this toxic load by using therapies that tap into that, and there are examples here, like this is an example here with macrophages. And I'll show you this on the screen where you could see this real time. Macrophages are the Pac-Man of the cells. Okay, so this is what that means here. So have a look at here with these stem cells that are generated through photobiomodulation. Photo, light, bio, life, modulation, to change life through light. And they're producing something called extracellular vesicle secretion. And these are known as exosomes, which are the on-flow of stem cells. Stem cells secrete exosomes. Here you see a 6.25-fold increase. So you're seeing 600% increase in your amount of healing signaling cells. They're messengers. It's like you're delivering messages like mail, and that's how the body works, which is fascinating. So it shouldn't be a shock. So anyone hears her story and says, you know what, that's not a double-blinded placebo trial, that's an anecdotal story. Yeah, it is. But it's a case report. It's a scientific process also. And there are scientific studies, like I'm sharing with you, that show the mechanisms that are happening biologically. If you upregulate your healing factors, the signaling molecules in your body that tell the body, go and heal, regenerate this, make new cells, make this work again. This is what's going on. And this part here was really fascinating here in this stem cell study. Look, photobiomodulation therapy to autologous bone marrow in humans significantly increases the concentration of circulating stem cells and macrophages, a pilot study. And here we have an increase from 7.8 to 29% here of the stem cells, CD34 plus cells. And then here, 7.8 to 52.1% increase in macrophages, which are the Pac-Men that are cleaning up the cells. And here, so you could see what that means, this is a 278% increase in stem cells, which was from a single session in humans that started in 2 hours and peaked at 2 to 4 days. So 2 hours after the red light and you say, I think I'm feeling something, you actually are. It's a scientific process. And then if we were to see what that looks like in the body, like if you were to pay for it, for example, how many stem cells is that? And it's somewhere around 50 million to 100 million stem cells just in the shin, because it was a shin study. So if it was around the whole body, it would be somewhere between 500 million to a billion extra stem cells that one session generated, which it's funny now to look at this of what that would cost, which is somewhere around $5 to $9 million if someone was getting a stem cell treatment every day to replicate what we're seeing in red light. Anyway, I just want to give you that mouthful to have a little bit of scratching your head on that as to why this is working.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's basically 2 hours after the session is really when all of these things kick in.
Yep.
Is that what I'm
Yeah,
hearing?
exactly. It started and then it peaked at 2 to 4 days. So
Really?
you did the red light and then you thought, oh, maybe that was working while the light was on me. No, that started the process. That was the first domino that fell. And then just imagine now for the next 2 to 4 days, you're seeing the dominoes continue to fall, which is why you see studies. And over the year, Gary, I've showed you studies that use red light twice a week, and you can now make sense of why that's basically still an unbroken treatment. That being said, red light exists in nature daily. It's all day through the sun, and especially concentrated in the sunrise and sunset. So God is saying, I would love you to have this every day, but if you don't, let's at least get it to you at intervals whereby you could continually have an unbroken cycle by having it 2 or 3 times a week. It's pretty cool.
So how can light affect the stress hormones, sleep, inflammation, and ultimately help support the hormonal balance?
Sure. Yes. Hormones, very fascinating. So what we see in clinical studies is that when we use light to stimulate how the body produces hormones, let's think about thyroid hormones this here is a fascinating study. And I'll just show you this because I want people to know that everything I talk about and anything that you want to know about, guess what? Google's your friend. And get inside the system yourself and watch this. So look at this, the impact of photobiomodulation on, let's see this one, on T3, T4 ratio and quality of life in Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Here there were two groups of people. This was 350 patients. They all have Hashimoto's. There's group 1, there's group 2, okay? And now they're testing to see how much of the thyroid hormone they can produce under the therapies they're under. Both groups are doing supplements, vitamin D, iron, and selenium. One of the two groups, while doing those supplements, is taking the red light as well. So how much better or worse did they do? Well, the answer is hormone replacement needs were significantly decreased in group 1 compared to group 2. Low-level laser or light therapy, they're interchangeable, is 70 times more effective increasing T3, T4 ratio, and 15 times more effective in decreasing levothyroxine dosage. So this is a slam dunk. There's two groups. And this actually even, this is a really bizarre one. This actually is covertly even a test against sunlight, because do you think out of the 350 people, some of them went and got sunlight over their thyroid, considering that's the part of the body that's typically not ever, like none of us are blocking our thyroids right now. Right, so if you're just walking to your car, to park your car, to go to work, then that 5 minutes, whatever, you're getting light exposure. And yet the group that did red light was 70 times better. And it makes sense because red light therapy through like a device like what you're seeing behind me is between 20 to 40 times the strength. So, and at that point now you're increasing hormones. And so there's also something I could show that I actually jumped up in my testosterone from a study, and I'm not taking hormones, so I'm not taking testosterone. So that's really interesting. And I was pretty depressed at the previous one. And so things can fluctuate and you can kind of go, oh, what happened here? And I grew up really sick, and we could take that off screen for a second. I grew up really sick, and so I had Lyme disease and chronic fatigue syndrome and nausea and a lot of blood viruses, Epstein-Barr, mononucleosis, and Ross River fever, glandular fever. So I had a lot of conditions. So for me to just live a life where I can, chase after my kids and have a family. I had to quit full-time work when I was in my early 20s. I'm 40 now. And so I'm just happy to be alive. Like I don't take that for granted at all. And I think about the people out in Venezuela right now, that what they're going through, and by God's grace, it looks like I'll be headed out there within a few days to be a part of a search and rescue operation and do the journalism to be able to document that and alert people to that. So I'm just grateful to be alive. But then, when you see your numbers drop, you think, okay, what's this going to mean long term for my testosterone being as low as it is, like going down to 400? And I'll show you this to you. It's kind of, I'm going inside my emails here, so you guys are going to see this real time. Okay, and I'll pull this up in a second. Okay, so here we go.
Let me know when I can bring the screen
Yeah,
up.
yeah, you can bring it up now. So this is here. Okay, you can see this. Yep, here it is. There we go. Okay, and now I'll go down to testosterone. Here, look at the previous result and date here. And this was only in November of last year. So yes, people that watch this know, okay, well, Jonathan was doing red light then, but there could be interferences that happen, and then that can throw you off. There could be some toxins that you're exposed to that wasn't your fault. Or it might have been that I was lax on my diet, or I was traveling too much and I was getting a lot of EMFs, and so then it was just affecting things. And so, I'm not here telling you that everything in my life is perfect. I'm here showing you a way out when you get into problems. And here, look at this now. Look at that jump. This one just came in June, right? Or that was the end of last month. Now here, look at the drop. It's like I jumped up 400 points, 450 points. I'm at the highest range of testosterone. Like that's the reference interval. I'm almost at the very top for testosterone, and yeah. So I don't supplement. I don't even take natural herbs for testosterone.
Wow.
That is
That's
really
remarkable.
promising.
Well,
Oh,
Angie,
wow.
speaking of blood work, you actually your doctors were shocked. You want to share what happened
Oh,
with
yeah,
your blood
absolutely.
work story?
prior to, beginning bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, I had a baseline, and that was really important to me. I needed to check where everything was at and how I was doing. And the only thing that I was doing at the time was red light and PEMF. And I remember talking to John, my clinician, and the other doctors, and they called me and they were just so impressed over my blood work. Like, we know you don't feel good. But your blood work is like, we don't see this. This is good stuff. And we joked because I'm Greek. I'm like, well, it's that Mediterranean diet and the olive oil, but of course that definitely helps. But for me, I'm like, the only thing I'd been doing was red light to help myself feel better, because when I did do it, I felt better. And it was my rescue. And so what you said earlier, Jonathan, I had told Gary before the interview, I want people to understand, yes, red light is great to be proactive on your health, but it is like also, you know, that's the tool you grab first, in my opinion, when you're in an emergency, when you're in a chaotic situation where your mind and body are just, they're all over the place, and you're trying to find peace, and you're trying to get that peace to align inside you.
Jonathan, one thing that Angie experienced was dramatically improved sleep.
Wow.
Oh my
S-
gosh. Oh my,
So,
I could keep thinking about it.
so how
Um,
important is sleep when someone is trying to recover hormonal stability, and how does red light play a role there?
Sure. Yeah. Well, you're dealing with factors that are causing you to not sleep, which are to do with like pollution that from not only electromagnetic frequencies that are in our environment to artificial light that is high flicker rate. And that's where the LEDs in the homes are really damaging people. These are examples of why people are sleeping poorly. And then even just this issue of deficiencies. So sleep is still, it's not the absence of being awake, and that's what sleep is. Sleep is actually where the body then is generating more stem cells, by the way. So now you start seeing how things come together, and your body needs things to activate those processes so that you can sleep. And it's not just exhaustion that makes you wipe out. There's biological mechanisms that go into rest and repair and regenerate. Because if it was just being wiped out, then your body wouldn't go and regenerate and do what it needs to do. And the deeper the sleep, getting these REM wavelengths of sleep, then you're able to activate more of these healing processes. The better you sleep, the better you heal. You wake up feeling good. And so when we balance the body, we are able to achieve some of these important things. Now, you come into something like pulse electromagnetic field therapy, and one of the clinical studies shows specifically that during the clinical trials, 69.7% either went into complete remission of insomnia or had a dramatic drop in their insomnia so that they had some normalcy. So, why would that work so well? Well, funny enough, we were biologically designed to sleep on an electromagnetic field called the Earth. And guess what? We never do anymore. Sleep on the Earth. And so, by the way, like outside of even what I'm offering with my company Red Life, because we don't do grounding mats, but getting a grounding mat for the bed is wise. And now, because as I talk about that, you think, well, I'm not going to go sleep out on the dirt and get bugs in my ears and blame Jonathan. I should probably do that in a safe setting. And so you could actually plug in a grounding mat that you could cost you $100 to get a grounding mat, or where you're working, you should have a grounding mat underneath you just so your feet are continually grounded and you're dropping out all the EMFs and you're getting the Earth's magnetic field through you. And then sunlight. The reason why God is giving red light at the sunset is because it's actually a switch to say go to sleep, and it's as it is in the morning. The red light is, hey, you're awake now. The sun begins red, and then it comes into more high concentration in blue. And that gives you some really great clues. And I want to show you quickly this image. This is an interesting one where I've got here a woman named Becca, and she's 33, and she is here experiencing pulse electromagnetic field therapy. here at a convention called the Biohacking Conference in Austin. And she got to a point where she was so toxic, she was showing dementia symptoms at that young age, so slurred speech, but more incoherent thoughts was really what was going on. So she couldn't conclude her thoughts properly, and she had to have multiple surgeries on her legs because of the lymphedema or lipedema, and she was then you watch her have this ethereal experience. You watch her body immediately respond to it. Somebody that's extremely sensitive, you watch that go the other way. Check this out. Tell me if you can hear this.
How are you feeling, Becca?
Could you hear that or not?
Yeah, got it.
Great.
I feel deep relaxation, peace. All of my cells are just like exhaling a deep sigh of relief and happiness.
Wow.
Every cell. It feels like my whole body just finally unwound everything. It feels so good.
That's beautiful. You look emotional.
I was crying earlier. You
Why?
missed it. Tears of joy and peace, like just absolute bliss. Tears of bliss.
From what you're feeling
From
right now.
just this mat. Yeah, just laying here. I feel so good.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, it feels amazing.
Wow.
I don't want.
Yeah. So there you go. And so you can see what that looks like biologically. What is it that's going on in her body that would maybe make her feel that? Look at this here. Look at this little magnet and listen to it.
Oh, look at that. Yeah.
Yep, that's what's going on. And so she's feeling that, and then she's trying to work out words to describe what's going on biologically. With something's going on, my body is getting some kind of signaling system being rebooted. I would explain it like jumper cables for the mitochondria. So you're putting jumper cables on a magnetic process in the body to set it back in motion. And then when she goes off there, it's not that it just worked while it was on there, just like red light. She's now got the domino effect going on with the electromagnetics in her body, which is what caused you either to thrive or kind of live like a zombie.
Amazing.
Oh,
That's
wow.
so cool. Angie, eventually, what's your reaction, Angie, when you see that?
It made me think about just being on the PEMF mat when I was having major anxiety attacks. And I remember just speaking it out loud and saying, "Oh God, it would stop my anxiety attack." And they were so incredibly awful. So when I'm watching her be in this euphoric state, that's how I felt. I would come out of it, the bad storm of this panic attack, and I would be like, you feel your body at rest, and
Oh, I remember at night, something would happen, and you would just like
oh,
go into these intense anxiety attacks, and then you'd lay out the PEMF mat, you'd get on it, and like the relief was virtually instant.
Wow.
I left it on my ground so I could just literally, that's my side of the bed. I would roll off
Yeah.
because like I need to be close by, and I would have it on and I would go there.
Literally right behind where you're sitting right now.
Yeah. It was like, okay, because I'd wake up 100 times during the night with anxiety.
Wow.
And being able to get on my mat, I'd get right back to sleep. It would stop the anxiety attack, and I would be able to go back into sleep and let my body rest, where I could function to some level. It wasn't perfect, but it was damn near perfect enough. I had a choice, and this is hard. When you're at the level where I was, I had a choice. Do I, begin pharmaceutical drugs, anti-anxiety medication? That world I didn't understand. I didn't know. I didn't want to.
Well, plus we didn't want to get trapped in that world. We know what that world looks like, and we know all that world does is mask symptoms and never gets into the root causes of what's happening in your body.
Yeah, and for me, I wanted a quick fix. I wanted a fix more than anything. I was dying. I was
Wow.
literally dying. And but
Now,
I'm also I prefer sorry.
with respect to staying away from the the pharmaceutical cocktails, eventually you went into the bioidentical hormone replacement. And I'm not going to put pharmaceuticals in the same category as a hormone replacement because it's something your body is naturally creating as opposed to something that's masking or forcing your body to have a chemical reaction to whatever you're taking. So looking back now, how do you see all of these pieces fitting together with the red light, the PEMF, and the hormone replacement therapy?
You need a lot of tools. Some of us need more than others, and what works for one person may not work for another person. But for me, this was the way. This was the way. And what I was going to say earlier is that I need to know what's going on. I know there's a reason for what I'm feeling, and do I want to be on bioidentical hormone replacement therapy for the rest of my life? It's not my wish. Um, it seems to be very helpful for me right now. But again, I'm always searching for answers. Whatever is going on inside me, something caused it beyond the hormones. I believe that there was triggers from somewhere else, toxins, those are all real factors. And Gary knows I'm super sensitive. I'm in one room, he turns the light on in the other. I'm like,
It's
did
so
you
true.
did you turn the TV on? What is that?
Oh yeah, no, it's true. Like she could tell when, well, I mean, back when we had the CRT televisions, the cathode ray tube televisions, I could turn on one of those TVs and in another part of the house, and you would say, "Did you just turn on a TV?" Because of the electromagnetic field that it creates, and it just goes through the whole house, and you would actually feel it. That's how sensitive that Angie is, Jonathan.
I love all this power. I'm like, there's peace
Yeah.
here.
You're the canary in the coal mine. So somebody that is so sensitive that if she's that sensitive, she knows something. Her spidey senses are up. Like the reason why they had the canary in the coal mine story is because they would have the canaries in the coal mine, and if something happened to them, they died, then they would know this is toxic. We need to get out of here. And it's been happening with birds in homes. People are cooking with Teflon, and the birds are dying in homes. And so like cooking with Teflon is a really bad idea. So get ceramic or cast iron and just get these toxins away from you because they will find their home in your body. Get rid of any toxic intervention that you're putting directly in your body, in your bloodstream. People can refer to what I'm think about what they're thinking of that. Put the dots together. But you've got glyphosate, and that's a huge problem. And so eating organic as much as possible, and then doing things for the fact that you know that you're not going to be able to always do that. There's always going to be times when it's like, what, am I going to starve? Well, look, I've got to find a way right now. And so then how do you eat less toxic things? Like the Dirty Dozen Clean 15, foods that have thicker skins, so they'll be less affected by the toxins. Strawberries are going to be a bit of a problem, so it's better to avoid them if they're not organic completely, right? So these are things, ways to think, to reduce the toxic burden and to have a better life. And while we're just talking on that and concluding that thought, this was yesterday. I was on the plane, and you could tell that I was on the plane. This woman here was... And she immediately I found out that her father had just passed away. Okay, the day before. Not yet. Yesterday I was on the plane with her. The day before, her father had passed away. And now here we are on the plane, and I'm just trying to pull this up. I've got this other video of while we're just sitting there. She had a big injury, and she had like a very high pain, like a 9 out of 10 pain. Here she is on the plane, and so am I going to sit on the plane and just let's see, is this one showing up? Yeah, it is. Cool. And yeah, I'll offer, and everyone should do this. It's very gratifying to live like this, to just think, okay, well, look, I'm going to say something, like she might not want to hear it. That's fine. I'm not going to keep pushing it if she doesn't want to. But she's got this massive injury here with her leg. She's in a brace. I had to get in so I could see her like a tin man kind of trying to let me in. And then when I had to go to the bathroom, like I felt really bad because I was against the window. She was in so much pain, like me getting out. And then after the red light gets on her, then the whole story just turns around. Let's check this out.
Wait a second. So wait. Let me recap here. So you gave her a red light knee brace.
Yes.
On the plane.
Yes.
You just happen to have one, like is carrying in your carry-on.
No, not exactly. I had the red light belt, which you've seen.
Ah, yes.
Yes, and I'll see if it's in my bag here. Or did I leave it with her? No, I know I didn't. I'll find it. But yeah, so I had that on, and I think it's on her back right now. I think in this story. Let's see what happens.
I was mowing the lawn one day, and we have a very steep hill, and I slipped, and then I also was reorganizing the shed, and I slipped off a ladder the same day, so I twisted it and probably tore something in there is what they're telling me.
Okay.
So very painful.
Really, how painful?
I was walking down to the garden, and I fell to the ground and could no longer put any weight on it. It was screaming pain.
Wow. So screaming pain is like, I don't know, 8, 9 out of 10 pain. And yeah, so there it is on her back, and she was flinching from the pain with her back. And then let's see if did I film it when, okay, now, and then she recalls what it was like where she was moving around. She recalls that, but then I got her when we were off the plane. Let's see, which one is that here? Maybe it's that one. No, okay. Oh, there she is there. Okay, now she's just striding. She's like not limping. It was crazy. What did you just say?
I just said I'm walking on my leg. I'm not limping, and it is not hurting. And that I've been in pain for 3 months.
What?
3 months because it's taken the insurance. They wouldn't approve the MRI and stuff. So I have been in pain for 3 months, and I right now am walking without any pain.
What? Wow.
That's amazing. Look at her. You can tell the pain is like removed because her face, like when someone's walking around with severe pain, you can see it in their face, but she's glowing. She's like relieved.
Yeah, it was a good freeze frame right then. Yeah.
Is this what you had? This is the.
Yes, exactly. Yep, put it on, and I also put it on the pulsing mode. See?
Oh my God.
Can you? Yeah, turn it on, Gary.
My battery's dead.
Oh,
Oh yeah, that's totally.
You had
dead.
one job, Gary.
I had one job. Let me see. I could probably. I could charge it up while we're sitting here.
Well, I had one job. I didn't bring my red light in here. I don't know where it is.
Well, what I do appreciate the one you gave me for my desk.
Yeah,
And
that's great.
that one is game changing.
if anyone needs it, it's that guy,
Yeah.
Gary
So
Franchi.
I have one on my desk. It's like right next to me. It's about like this far away from me. So as I'm typing, it's just like hitting me, and that's remarkable.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, here's a woman, like when I was on the plane sitting next to her, somehow within that first few minutes, she felt open enough to tell me that her dad just died yesterday, 87 years old, and she read Psalm 23 with him, and then he said amen, and that was his last word, and then he was gone. Well, he's not gone, but he breathed his last breath, and he's with the Lord. And however people understand that, whether we're waiting till Jesus' return and the resurrection of the dead, or whether he's with the Lord immediately. But she had peace with that, but then it was obviously so much grief, and then she's in so much pain. And I didn't mention her husband has neuropathy, really bad nerve pain to the point where he is in constant pain. And then her mother-in-law has fibromyalgia, really, really bad to the point where she's always in pain. And so and we talked a lot about, just like our last interview, Gary, maybe we could take that off screen, that we talked a lot about faith, and there's so much peace that can come in your life from that. And so she was normally having really high anxiety when she flies, and she would not be in a good state, like emotionally. And then she thought, oh, the red light is really like helped me. I don't have anxiety. My back is not in pain either. And so a few things. And I said, do you think it had anything to do with what we talked about? Because we were talking a lot about faith, and particularly like views about God, and having really a lot of confidence about how God doesn't, judge and condemn, and there was some deeper things that I was sharing theologically, and she said, well, actually, it could be that. But so there's this mix of things that were going on with that joy, because I don't want to just say it was all red light, because there was a lot of conversations about faith and God, and she was really overjoyed by that. So all these things go together. When we believe in a God that loves us, then we also look for things that God has made. Like light is the thing that he's made that preceded all creation, preceded all things. And it was the genesis of life for us. In John chapter 1, it says, that was the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. And then if you look at conception, you'll see it's a flash of light that starts life. And so our Genesis was this flash of light mimicking like the entire creation of when it started.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we start realizing that God made these things, and God wills us to thrive. He loves to see us thrive. He hates to see us suffer. God doesn't punish us. And it sounds like, no, God punishes bad people. God allows things to happen, and consequences play out. Even the consequences that come from wicked people doing things, like they could harm us, because he can't restrict free will. But he does not punish people and say, you've done all these bad things in your life, now let's punish you with ill health. And once people can move out of those thoughts, they can come into a lot more peace and harmony, because you can't escape that feeling. It's constant. And so there's some liberation there too.
Yeah, no, remarkable when you talk about the light of creation. And I remember one of our earliest interviews, you really blew my mind when you were describing, that the light that your devices create is an amplification of the creation of sunlight. You know, and then with the combination of the PEMF mat, all these things are using the exact same tools that are in our natural environment, but allowing us to focus them into a specific area of our bodies to have maximum benefit, just using the frequencies that God has already created for us. And I think that is probably one of the coolest things when people can understand that. And I want to jump to Angie, because these are all part, like all of the concentration of the light, the concentration of the PEMF mat, and if you had to describe your recovery, would you say there was just a magic solution, or were there several tools that were working together? Like, talk to us about that. Oh, Angie. Oh, she's frozen.
So
okay. Well, Jonathan, go ahead and
Yeah.
maybe you could illuminate us there.
Yeah, absolutely. So with Angie, so it's going to be fun to see, or whether it's with a follow-up or in whatever way, we'll get some really great insight from her, because ultimately, it's a really good point. You ask great questions, because we need to ask people what their experience is, because there is this inner knowing often, and sometimes we don't know. But you'll see animals do this, or you see them go walk over to a light therapy device, a grounding mat, a PEMF mat. You'll see them walk over to it and use these types of things, which you'd think you'd have to convince the animal or try to force it to do it, give it a treat. But she was attracted to something, and so that's really between her and God, about how she found a unique solution for her, and then she loved herself enough to follow through with those things. Now, with what you're talking about, which is, I think, a really awesome aspect that you came in on. So, like, when we're looking at measuring light, and this is the reason why I've shared this before. I've got this stack of books here. I came from this cancer conference. I was just in San Diego. Got in late last night. So I was collaborating with some of the world's leading doctors, and Dr. Lee Erin Keneally. I was with her medical team and her medical doctors. She's treated 90,000 patients, largely with cancer. 90,000. So these are the guys that kind of travel. They have people travel around the world for them, like whether it's Dr. Tony Jimenez. I was accounting with him on Sunday what it was like for him to be treating Olivia Newton-John with her cancer and helping her go into remission several times, which is kind of her then basically beating cancer for 30 years, and then she sadly did not complete that journey, which is why he and I were obsessed with getting people set up in their homes, because it's not some sprint like I'm going to go get it treated somewhere. You think 30 years down the road, it's all about your habits changing and for good, versus just kind of putting out a fire for a little bit of time and then putting it in remission, quote unquote. So he was accounting some of these amazing experiences of what it was like to work on all these different projects, and I was dialing in with them because they're using our devices in their clinics, and I was showing them there was another PhD, Dr. Matthias, that was an expert in photobiomodulation and working specifically with cancer and using different photosensitizers like methylene blue and other ones like indocyanine green and curcumin, etc. And I was showing actually them, these physicians and doctors. I had all the meters out with them, and they were blown away. Dr. Matthias Rath, I was going to say Dr. Matthias Rath, but Dr. Matthias, he was one of the ones that had so much experience with red light. He would be able to then bounce back with me and say, "Oh no, Jonathan, it's better explained like this," or "Here's this study," and I could do the same with him. We go back and forward like that. But he's so intelligent on it, and he went and tested the other devices because there was a few different companies doing red light, and he ran the meters against that. And I won't say the name of the other one because I don't really want to. I want everyone to like be able to. Yeah. Anyway, there's no point in attacking, especially when he gave me that insight and he was representing this other company, and it was literally 5 times the strength, and it was something that he wasn't able to quantify without having the meters there, and then. Yeah, it was really amazing. And so let me prove what that looks like here. And I had to dull it down, and you'll watch this if you want it. Let's see. There we go. Here we go. So you'll see these numbers go up. I put it down to 20%. Now watch these numbers go up as I hit this. So as you mentioned, Gary, we're working with how God has created intensity of light, or it exists in nature, however people want to see it. But look at these numbers go up. I'm putting the brightness right up. And that's now to 100%. And now we're sitting at over 1,000, there you go, over 2,000 watts. Oh, sorry, I didn't have that in the right place. Over 2,000 watts here. It's going to come up there. And I'm getting interference here in the room. Just hit up there. And which would translate to 200 milliwatts. And that was, yeah, literally somewhere around 5 times the strength. Now, then the other meter that we were using there was the meter that tests the actual wavelengths that are coming out of the device. So here behind me, you could see different colors. Let me show it to you on a meter that's going to measure all those wavelengths of light so that you could see if they're there. And the importance of that, I've shared that. Look at those wavelengths scoring.
Wow.
And they're the wavelengths that are most proven, and you have a high concentration of those. And Dr. Henry Ely and I were sitting there going through, like, back and forth on camera, why that's so important for people to know that, right? And here's why. When people, their hearts fail for lack of knowledge. I'm combining 2 verses, people perish for lack of knowledge. And here, if you look at the wavelengths I've got here, you could see how they're proven for different functions within the body. So we're not even talking about conditions. We're talking about interfacing with the body, getting through the epidermis, the dermis, subcutaneous tissue, muscle, bone, interior tissues. The greater the number, the greater the delivery or into the deeper, right? But then just because it's deeper doesn't mean it's better. So if a device only had this wavelength, the downside would be you'd miss all these other areas in the body that also need migration of stem cells. And the reason why the study that I was sharing with stem cells is really important is because it didn't just show you that it made stem cells, it showed specifically, look at these words, it stimulates, photobiomodulation stimulates different types of stem cells to enhance their migration. So putting in new stem cells doesn't help them migrate. Light helps them migrate. Proliferation, which is to create more from the ones that you have, especially dormant stem cells, and differentiation, which is the maturing of those stem cells in vitro and in vivo, which means in life. And so, and then you would say then, well, which wavelengths are proven to do that? Because if we don't know that, then we're still guessing, because then somebody then has another device and they'll say, okay, well, maybe this works, maybe this. And so the actual wavelengths then need to be measured and the amount of power delivered, because that's how you produce that. So when people then think, oh, okay, it's possible that I may be able to produce $5 million worth of stem cells on a yearly basis, but then they go and get the cheapest thing they could find that they have no idea if it works or not, and then they don't even use it anyway. It's just not the right way to think about your health. And I love this when you look at how these specific mechanisms work. And again, here we see this is working in both proliferation and mineralizing phenotype differentiation, which means it's causing the stem cells to mature. The reason why I was referencing the wavelengths is here. Now we see how it works with different conditions and different functions of the body, and conditions that we either want to be preventative and proactive about, or maybe somebody is battling something and they could consider using this as part of what they're doing to be a regenerative therapy: lung, breast, stomach, the big C, colorectal. You could see all the different types and different wavelengths that are interfacing with those parts of the body.
Absolutely fascinating, Jonathan. Thank you for explaining how that all works. And Angie, I wanted to ask you about all the different tools that are working together in your health journey. How does this all play into it?
Different tools. It's survival, and you thrive. You need to pick the right tools in your life to help you get through it. And red light has just absolutely been that tool for me. I'm
Well,
thriving.
well, you
You know.
mentioned too your skin as well.
Oh, let's talk about my skin.
No, I mean
I'm
your skin looks great.
and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I used to do Botox, but I
Good to talk
I
about that
don't
stuff.
do. What's that?
It's good to talk about that stuff, right?
Yeah, why not? I don't care. It's
Right.
good. It's good because it's an honest conversation. And I keep having so many people come up to me and tell me about my skin, and I'm barely wearing any makeup. I haven't done any Botox for almost a year. And, with stuff like that, you have to repeatedly do it. Um, I just do red light. And it's another significant change that has been made in my life for the better.
That's awesome.
How does
That's
it,
awesome.
Jonathan? How does the red light help on the skin?
Well, firstly, let's just take a moment to acknowledge how amazing Angie looks. She looks
Absolutely.
amazing. She's hardly wearing any makeup. She looks like she's been dolled up for 2 hours for a wedding, and and she looks like she could be at graduated university just recently. I mean, she looks absolutely amazing. She's not that we're vain here. We're just giving credit where it's due. She's done something to achieve that.
I can agree. I think she looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It matters. Feeling good and looking good, it does matter. It goes together for me. It goes
Well,
together.
Well, I'll answer your question
Oh
looking
my
like
goodness.
Mortal Kombat. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so the,
I
the
should
way
have stopped
I
by.
can't even take myself seriously. Hold on. Okay, so the way that red light helps the skin is it's
Hold on.
stimulating the skin. Yeah, no, it's great. This is a laser mask, by the way, and so you could see that, and I can change that to blue, and there's a reason why blue is really quite fascinating with how it works. Here we go, and let's just amp up the brightness here. Put it, and then yeah, you can stimulate your skin to be producing it, getting back to its pluripotent state where the stem cells are activated, and you're just producing copies of copies as you grow older. So imagine you photocopied something, and then you took the photocopy, and then you photocopied the photocopy, and then you photocopied and you're like, what's happening? Why are these wrinkles? Like, where's my hair going? Like the copying process is a dead end signal, and it's going down. And so now we go, let there be light, and then we're saying, get back to the original, baby. Like we're pulling back in the energy, the potential within the cell through the mitochondria, and it's receiving the light to be able to generate more energy, so then it can make the right copy and print these new cells and cause them to go where they need to and restore elasticity in the skin and moisturize the skin. And these are all fascinating processes. Produce collagen. Red light is proven to do all these different processes, and so that's why it's a great option. And so then it makes people live longer, because then guess what they don't do? They don't do Botox, because the Botox is called a botulism toxin, is basically like a bioterrorism weapon.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to kill people like immediately or something like that, but it's it's just
It's what it is.
the poison is in the dose, right? So then it's okay. So we're localizing it, and so hopefully it doesn't like make the wheels fall off the bus. But it's paralysis. It's causing paralysis. That's why it's like, well, I don't have any wrinkles right now, but it's causing paralysis in these areas, and so it's a botulism toxin, and it's very dangerous. So it's best to just have a better way, and then over time it becomes worse, and then it stops working, and so just do the time. Like people want a quick fix. red light is still a quick fix, but you just got to put something on. So I didn't have to go and meditate in a room and listen to Enya music. I actually could just keep working here. And yeah, sure, it's a weird interview at this point, but it's not that hard.
It's for everybody. It's for everybody. And
Yeah.
and the beauty industry is really gearing towards, trying to be more natural and less you know, putting toxins in your body and all
Well,
that.
and what's wild too is that it's becoming a lot more mainstream. Like I've
Yeah.
seen it in movies. Like I think we were watching Anaconda, the new Anaconda film that came out, and there was a scene where one of the main characters had a red light mask on before
Yeah.
I think the anaconda attacked him or something. And then there was the other movie, the new Naked Gun movie that came out, and the villain, he's kind of like an evil Elon Musk type character, and there's a whole scene where he's standing in front of a red light device and he's totally naked and it's just over his private area, and he's talking about like, well, yeah, this is making me more virile as a man. So it's funny to see how like pop culture is incorporating this, and it's becoming more mainstream. So Jonathan, maybe you could speak to that scene itself. Why would they show that over a man's privates, and what are the benefits there?
Yeah, well, I think we saw it in my blood work, right, where you see an increase in testosterone. And so it is one of the areas that I would most want to target with red light because of how it's going to increase testosterone and help with hormones over the testicles. And you look at these areas, and I've shared before the prostate cancer studies where the men go to, they have a almost a 400% increase in putting that type of cancer in remission. I'll just pull that study up right there. This is the clinical study on that, showing, published in Lancet Oncology. But the amazing part there is that 6% got surgery in the red light group and 30% got surgery in the non-red light group, which is a 500% difference. And it causes impotency in 9 out of 10 people once you get the surgery. And so what helps to put that into remission is also what helps make the organs just work properly. And so, as you could imagine, like I just feel like I'm going to be this gas bag that runs out of air, just trying to preach from the mountaintops for people not to wait for problems to happen. Instead, give your organs what they need now, so that arguably, by God's grace, you don't even get into these situations. You have great sexual health. You can sustain an erection or whatever it is, right? And you can have like great hormones, so that you want to have intimacy with the person that you fell in love with back in college, and you want to keep that fire alive. Like, we are not supposed to like lose these amazing connections to our lovers, like when we're I'm getting all very romantic here, but these are the things that end up making life great, or life like just kind of like going through the motions. Like, why not get these things back in your life if they've started to fade a little or a lot? It's just you might be one red light therapy session away from having a massive turnaround.
That's amazing. So
1,000%. Who doesn't want to feel good?
Yeah.
Aging is tough enough, and it takes a toll mentally and physically. But if you could, like you said, like one session, it changes things. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel good.
So Jonathan, there are millions of people watching this, and many of them wondering, if they're losing themselves. What is your message to them?
Sure. If you're losing yourself, your health is definitely in the mix there. Yes, there could be emotional traumas and different things going on, and there's some things that you can't just kind of just make yourself happy right away. Just like the woman on the plane, she couldn't just make herself happy. She's got something very real happening in her life. Her mother-in-law is in constant pain. Her husband is in constant pain. She's in physical pain, and she just lost her dad the day before. And so how do you give yourself what you need so that you can deal with life and the curveballs that it throws? If you have tools available to you, whatever it is, right? So if it's getting out into nature, getting sunlight, that's a great thing. Getting on the earth with bare feet, lying down on the earth, getting in the ocean, which is how you could pump your body with electrons. I just want people to get real solutions to real problems. And then if you see the science and the benefits behind red light therapy, it's time to do something about that. And whether it's buying something that could be like that woman, she used something that cost basically $300 that I put on her while she was there, and then I put it on her back, and then she was able to get to a flight, without having to be in pain because she had to rush, and she was able to just experience something that brought joy and peace into her life that she deserves to have. Why shouldn't she be happy? And I want you to have those things too. And I want you to be able to just unlock those amazing abilities to self-heal and regenerate. And when Angie and I were just talking there off camera, I was sharing with my 87-year-old grandma. This was a panel that it was identical to the one I sent home with her after she was having a lot of cognitive impairment, and she was having multiple falls, and she had 15 stitches in her head, and then she used this. And this is something that she would have spent for that year in the medications that she used, just that $100 a month in this case. And by the way, we do have payment plans. If people are interested in these products, you grab them while we have the discounts available, and then use these tools like my grandma did, because now that her doctor, even though her doctor last night, my wife and I were talking about this, he's saying, you've got to stay on your thyroid medication. She doesn't have to, because her markers, she's normalized her thyroid function.
Wow.
But now it's a battle of whether she listens to him. She says, I know he's just trying to get money from me. I'm like, Abuela, you see through this now. Thank you. You're one of us now. And then yeah, I'm not going to tell her she needs to do this or that or the other. I want her to work out what she wants to do. It's not my job. It's not the doctor's job. It's her life. It's her body. And so,
Yes.
and so, this is an example. This, by the way, if you look at it on the page, it's the 200, the Hour Pro 200. That's the 600 behind me, and the one to the side of me is the 300 Pro Max. But choose something, or just the belt, like whatever it is. If you want to do something that is proven, it's worked for someone else you know and love and care about. Did Angie come on here to tell us some fake story? Maybe if she did, then she should probably start acting for Hollywood, because she's a pretty good actor. Actually, she's very good. She's better than the Hollywood actors I've seen. So this is a real story. And and so once you see that, then your follow through is different. You've seen clinical studies. You've seen that the top cancer clinics are using our devices, like the Hope for Cancer Treatment Centers. Dr. Daniel Pompa, by the way, I did a call with their doctors, because I do lots of trainings with their doctors. And that's the weirdest part about my life right now. I don't even know what's happening. I don't understand why I'm being used to teach and train so many doctors around the world. And I was speaking at that conference, and all the doctors were just like taking notes, very interested in like, wow, they know red light therapy, but there's various therapies that I'm using in combination, and we're getting amazing data from our audience. I'm not a clinician. I'm not trying to claim to be. It's like cases like this, and we report back. When I was doing this call with Dr. Dan Pompa, they have the largest thyroid coaching business in the world, and I was doing the training with the doctors. The head doctor, Dr. Olivia Pompa, his daughter, says, my mother's, no, not her mother, it's her boyfriend's mother, so I can't say mother-in-law, but she has regained her period at 54.
Wow.
Okay. And I said, oh, why don't you tell the story about her eyesight, because she can read now. Because Redacted News had the same thing. Like Clayton Morris, Stacy, and his mother-in-law all had massive improvements in their vision, about 50% less using their readers with about 3 weeks of use. And he was amazed by that. And I was like, tell the story that she could read a Bible now. And she says, yeah, she's got a period back too. She's bleeding again. I'm like, that sounds bad, bleeding. What do you mean? And she's like, she's having a menstrual cycle. I'm like, amazing, right? At 54, it's very common. It's very common. So then people go, oh, I kind of missed the window. I can't really have children anymore. But like, my wife is 42. She's giving birth to our third. And I don't think we're stopped, even though we had 3 miscarriages. You work out what's wrong, and then depends. What do you want? Delighted me, and I'll give you the desires of your heart. Your body can do it. And I've had so many friends. I got another friend that was 53. She just had her baby. That was awesome.
Wow. That's
So
remarkable.
cool.
Angie, last question. If there's one woman who's watching today who's exactly where you were, living with anxiety, panic, not sleeping, wondering if she'll ever feel like herself again, what would be your message to her?
Don, it gets better, and there's ways to get better. And this is definitely one of the best ways that I can recommend from my heart to you.
Wow. Wow. That's profound.
Yeah,
Profound.
it's awesome.
It's been a blessing, Jonathan, having you in our life. You've gifted us these devices, and you're sharing these benefits with our viewers. Of course, guys, the link is in the description. Make sure you use the promo codes as well, so you can take full advantage of the offer that Jonathan has. But it's really bigger than an offer. It's really a change in your health and the benefits. And of course, you gifted devices to my family, my father, and some of our friends who are experiencing the C word, and of course to our family. So like the benefits we're watching happen in real time, and it's actually quite exciting to be able to share that. And Angie, really, it's been a blessing to bring you on to share your story, because I've watched you, and to, and when I talk about the red light therapy, and I talk about it in the middle of our segments, I talk about, what my wife has experienced, and the anxiety and the discomfort and the sleepless nights. And, to some people it might sound like just another ad read or something like that, but there's a real true story behind it. And it's not just something I'm throwing out there, as a sales pitch. It's a real solution that you can bring into your home. And my wife is right here explaining how it has impacted her. So these aren't empty words that I share. These are real stories, real impacts, and that's why I want my viewers to understand what can happen in their own life. So, Jonathan, I want to thank you so much again for joining us and sharing looking at what has happened in Angie's life and our family's life, and be able to explain it so that we have an understanding of what's actually happening physically. So thank you so much, Jonathan.
Well, you're so welcome, Gary. And just as we sign off here and say goodbye to everyone, thank you, everyone, for watching this. Thank you for believing that it's possible for yourself, because that's what makes my life fulfilling, seeing people do these things. That's why Angie having this experience makes my life and my career, what I do, have joy and fulfillment, not just like this continual burden of, oh man, if only people would listen and try and do something about their situation and not expect some pill to be the solution, rather there to be a practice that supports the better life that they long for. And, just overcoming that obstacle in the mind of why somebody would put this off or say, no, it's not for me, when you could do something for a couple $100s, right? Which we have payment plans, right? We did that because we wanted people to be able to access this. And so it could be as little as $30 or $50 a month for several months, like with a belt as an example. And you saw video images of that. These are not the same as what you see other places. We had in that belt 5 different wavelengths of red and near infrared light. We show all the studies actually of how that's working with parasites, and we'll share a link as well, Gary, for the parasitic connection is such an important one. So we'll drop a link for that as well, with showing that connection between the parasitic infection and how light is causing parasites to be eradicated, especially in combination with antiparasitics. So we'll have that available for people, and there's a great.
Well, I think, Jonathan, I've created this this playlist of all of the interviews that you've done, and it's on our channel, so people can just go to our channel, they can click on the playlist, and they'll see like the parasitic interview that we did, the interviews that we did when we were talking about Mel Gibson and Joe Rogan, and the viral clip that went out. Like, the conversations you and I have had are so profound and so deep that people just need to go in and just binge watch them. Binge watch them, because every single one is a new revelation. Go right back to start at the beginning and work your way forward to every single interview, and you're going to get caught up with such a wealth of information that all your questions will be answered. And hopefully you'll make the jump, and you'll take the plunge and take advantage of these products in your home, as opposed to going out to a spa and spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars per session, which is really kind of ridiculous when you think about what you're offering and it being brought into your home. So
yeah, absolutely.
Like, like this little device, I just charged it up here, and it was charged. I did.
Maybe you got it upside down.
Yeah, maybe
not. Let's see. There we go. This.
There
There we go.
Okay.
And then hit play. Oh,
yeah,
we
yeah.
go.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
I got 10% charge on this now.
Yeah, there you go. It was enough.
But this is great, and I can put it on my face too, like Jonathan.
That's great. And then,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, Gary, flash this up for 10 seconds. I'll just end on this. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, sure.
So this is here. Can you see this? This is, yep. Boom. No, bring it up. The screen. Let's see. It's there. Yeah, that's it. So like this at parapurifymethod.com/NNN. So we'll drop that in the link because I want people to understand this connection. The reason why we're seeing all these different progressions, people understanding parasites driving a lot of these chronic conditions, and this, my wife's desperation. This, you read more about the story, the depression, the anxiety, the medication that she was on, all of these things, and then we'll show you the combination of these therapies and how they stack and how they work together. And so there's an amazing free training here that explains this mechanism of how it works and why this stack together is so effective, and why the parasite cleanses are typically not working for people, and why light is needed to activate that process. So I just wanted to share that because people are becoming more aware of this, but they're missing the actual mechanisms. So I just wanted to share that. And then as we wrap, just remember, guys, and we could take that off screen. And as I explained, the obstacle is often that people think, oh, you know what, I don't have the ability to do that, even though you could use HSA, guys. You can use your insurance to purchase it, and there's about $4.5 billion going back to employers when it should be going to you, and you could be accessing that so you don't even pay. If you got HSA, use that on our pages, and you can reach out to our team at myredlight.com/NNN. When you go there, you could see how you can contact our team at support@welloflife.com, and so just reach out to us. We can help you with all these different processes. Grab something that makes sense for you, and then just remember as well, the whole family can use that. The same device that Gary's using, his wife can use, his children can use, and the same thing is true with you and your loved ones. And so it becomes the cheapest therapy, and then if you look at it over a few years, it literally works out to be like $1 a session, or then goes down to and then the electricity is around 10 cents a session. And so it's not an expensive therapy then, it's something that's achievable. And we didn't bat an eyelid when we got the granite table countertop that costs $5,000. We didn't bat an eyelid when we looked at purchasing our car with that extra modification with the leather seats. But we're cutting corners with a device that could do so much for our health. So I want people to think about the choices they're making and make the right ones today, so you don't have to make the difficult ones tomorrow. I just came back from a conference where half the audience were battling the big C. Okay, and then my whole conversations this whole weekend has been with people that have followed me over the past decade, just sewing into them and helping them with that journey. That's the one I'd prefer not to do. I'd prefer to be on the other side of that, but I'm happy to be in the trenches with people. It's just that we want to be preventative, and I just hate that people, don't make decisions when they could, and they could really get ahead of this. So, and the code, by the way, guys, is NNN25 for 25% off, and NNN30 for 30% off bundles. So the 25 is for singles, 30 is for bundles. We've got those codes there, and make sure to use them and jump on it while it's available, because we will close that down, and it's something that's available for a limited time. So thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Jonathan. Jonathan, thank you. Angie, thank you for having the courage to share your story today. It wasn't really about red light therapy. It wasn't even really about hormone replacement. It was about hope, because so many women quietly struggle through perimenopause believing that they're broken. Angie showed us something different. Recovery wasn't one miracle. It was rebuilding its hormonal stability, better sleep, less inflammation, calming the nervous system, and perhaps most importantly, believing that healing was still possible. And if today's conversation helps even one woman realize that she's not alone, it will have been worth it. Share your story in the comments.